There is a trend in the height topic that I've seen way too often on social media in the last 2 years, and it really pisses me off. And it's those companies of elevator shoes who try and push it in public to people, just coming straight up to people on the street. Those companies don't care about the man, and they don't know how much harm they cause to them in the long term. They would just come publicly to guys on the street and introduce them to elevator shoes, to height increased shoes. And at first it looks fun, it looks innocent, but they don't understand the long-term damage that they cause to these men. What you usually see in those videos are just these kind of like influencers who will come with like those shoes in hand, and they would just go to like a group of guys, and they would usually go to the shortest guy in the group, and they would ask him his height, and then they would ask him, how would you feel being taller, how would you feel being 2-3 inches taller? And then they would give him the 3-inch taller shoes. He will stand next to his friends. All of a sudden he is maybe their height, maybe even taller than them, and then everyone will get excited, everyone will get happy about it. But they don't know what will be the after effect after this video ends, because at that moment they maybe introduced this guy to a new obsession about his life that he didn't have before that. This guy who just been in the video could have no care in the world about his height, and then all of a sudden one day this guy come right up to him in public, just ask him how tall he is and give him these shoes. And maybe later he would go and actually buy these shoes and start wearing them, and for him it will be like, oh, I'll just wear them for a date, I'll just wear them like every once in a while. But then he will start wearing them every time he go meet his friend, because he don't want to feel any shorter than that. And then it will become more and more on a regular basis until he will become obsessed about it. And that's how you create a high dysphoria to someone who just didn't have that before, and you introduce so much damage into his brain. And I just hate it, because this guy maybe didn't care about height, and he would never care about his height. And now all of a sudden you introduced him into a world of obsession. Another example, which I think is even worse than that, is that those guys would even come up to a guy next to his girlfriend, and they would ask his girlfriend what she thinks about his height. And maybe the girlfriend never thought about it, and she never cared about his height. His height was totally fine of her boyfriend. And then the guy would talk to her about it. He would ask the guy his height in front of his girlfriend, which is like such a douche move to do. And then he would ask him if he wanted to try the 3-inch shoes, and he will wear it, and his girlfriend will be like, oh yeah, that is so nice. But then he doesn't know what will happen after this video, that this guy might create a new obsession, and that his girlfriend might start thinking about his boyfriend, her boyfriend height. And this is so bad, and that can actually ruin their relationship. So those videos are very damaging to people in the long term, and can cause so much brain damage and so much obsession about height that they maybe didn't have before that. So I really wish that those videos stop and be condemned more often, because coming out to people on the street, on public, and just introduce them to such a thing, to such a horrible idea of trying to fix a problem that they don't have, is so bad. Now, I do understand when a YouTuber who is like talking about height or looks maxing, and he has some sponsor of like elevator shoes, and he will like talk about it a little bit in his video, those people are usually have the audience that already care about their height, they already know about shoe lifts, and that's fine. Like, anyone has the right to try and check this stuff, and some people already have high dysphoria and already care about their height. But to come out to people who are completely healthy about it and don't care about their height, and introduce them to care about their height and care about something that they didn't before, it's just so horrible. Because I know myself, as someone who had high dysphoria, that probably 60% of it was because of shoe lifts. And in my case, I was the one introduced it to myself, and that's fine. But I would not recommend it to anyone who don't care about his height. I would not just come to a random guy who is maybe shorter and tell him, hey, you know what will be good for you? To wear some elevator shoes. I wouldn't do that, because that can cause more harm and damage, and it's better for people to just accept them as themselves and not even think about height at all. So for me, those are one of the most horrible kind of videos on social media that I see way too often, and every time I see it, I just think about the disaster that comes after this video ends for that person in life. And I really hope these kind of videos will get condemned more often. So that was all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to contact me, you can do it through Instagram. We can schedule a consultation video or a video call. And for $15, you can ask me anything you want about my limb lengthening, about my doctor, about hospital, about any question you have, looks maxing advice, everything. And that was it for today, guys. I'll see you in the next video.